Good evening, Central Family. Pastor Clay here. The longer this pandemic goes, I feel like the Lord has me on a long glide path to learn a few things. How about you? And one of the things I've noticed is that I need the strength from somewhere to be able to love better. We've been designed for love, and we struggle to offer it to one another. But when we're locked in together, when we're quarantined in the same spaces with one another, we're confronted with our irritations and our impatience and selfishness that maybe we hadn't noticed in ourselves before. If you're anything like me, it's easy to point it out in other people, but maybe we didn't recognize it clearly as in ourselves like we do now. And even if you're alone, it's so simple to get frustrated or get irritated with other people. It's easy to say that we love, but as sinners, it's much harder to actually love deeply and to love another sinner well. I'm seeing that clearly in my life these days, and I don't like it. But what do we do to grow? How do we walk toward transformation to be able to love better? I've been reading this wonderful book that I'd encourage every one of you to pick up. It's by Dane Ortland, and the title of the book is Gentle and Lowly. Dane Ortland. It's probably one of the best devotional books I've read in a very long time. And it specifically focuses on the scripture's teaching about the heart of Jesus. Not about his work exactly, but how the Bible describes his heart. And one particular verse that Ortland focuses on is in John chapter 13, verse 1, where John writes, "Now before the feast of the Passover, when Jesus knew that his hour had come to depart out of this world to the Father, having loved his own who were in the world, he loved them to the end." He loved them to the end, John writes. Now, Ortland notes on this text, he says, Jesus does not love like us. We love until we are betrayed. But Jesus continues to the cross despite betrayal. We love until we are forsaken. But Jesus loved through forsakenness. We love up to a limit, but Jesus loves to the end, all the way to the end. What I want you to hear, dear friends, is that Jesus loves the real you, all the way to the end. Those disciples who would betray him after he washes their feet, he loved them to the end. And he loves you and me too, even when we betray him. Not the you who puts the best foot forward in the office, or the you that's projected to friends or family. Not the Instagram you, not the Facebook you, but the real you. The real you that struggles with impatience and selfishness. The real me that's revealed by living in close proximity 24/7 with other people. The real us that thinks sometimes the only option is to throw in the towel when loving another person becomes too hard or too challenging. We just give up. We might find our limits of our ability to love someone else, but Jesus never does. Jesus loves you to the end. He loves you to the end. So what? How does that grow us? How does that transform us? Well, I want you to know, first of all, that the Lord will never give up on you. He's not standing there rolling his eyes or impatiently tapping his feet at you. He has the strength to love you without limits. And furthermore, he can strengthen us not to give up on one another. His resurrection life can empower you to love even when you don't think you have the strength to keep going. You can, because the Lord is alive within you. He loves you, and through you, he loves others to the end. There's a supernatural life alive within you right now, and if you ask, the Lord can strengthen you and empower you and me to love one another more deeply, more fully, and more selflessly than you naturally know how to do. The one who loves us to the end is alive to extend his power and his growth into your life. So lean into him when you feel like you're running out of steam. the Lord loves us to the end, and he can equip us to do the same with others. It's not only true of us as individuals, but also as a body. He equips us to love one another to the end as a church body too. I want to pivot for just a moment and highlight some love signs or life signs that Jesus is at work among our congregation right now. The first thing I would point to would be online worship continues to be a wonderful blessing in this season of isolation. I know it's not perfect, but getting an experience of a little bit of feeling at home in our sanctuary, even though it's mediated through a computer screen, provides so much encouragement. Our music team, our worship teams, our technology team, they're all working so hard to provide this service to you every week in love for you. We're learning and we're growing every week. I'm so grateful. Even if it's not ideal, the Lord is loving us and meeting us in our online worship service. There's love for others that's happening as well. We have so many volunteers engaged in providing critical meals to local homeless people. In the early weeks of this pandemic, this started as a one-week outreach endeavor, and it's grown into a weekly ministry with many of you helping every week. Thank you for being the hands and feet of Jesus in such a practical and needed way right now. Also, another sign of love, another sign of life, there are more than 20 people joining our church right now, thanks to the membership class being transitioned to being online. And some of our new members are professing faith in Jesus for the very first time. What an amazing work of the Lord. The kingdom is growing in spite of this pandemic. And our staff is blessing us with these devotionals every night. This was, again, originally intended to be a short-term project, but so many of you have reached out and asked, can we keep these going? And we're going to keep doing it. And we're going to involve others as well. Church officers and other ministry leaders are going to be added into this rotation. It's been a wonderful way to grow closer together in this season of isolation. And it's also happening around the world. The missions team is doing online interviews with many of our missionaries and posting them on Facebook, posting them on our webpage. It's so encouraging to see and hear how God is using these brothers and sisters all around the world. And let me also say thank you. Financially, you as a congregation continue to give. And we are so grateful. I am so grateful. Your generosity continues to allow our church to navigate this difficult season of ministry with financial stability. Thank you. And please continue to partner with us as you're able. Now, I know on a lot of your minds is the question, what does the road ahead look like? It's hard not being able to be together. And we miss so much about not being together in the sanctuary, in the halls, in our classes. So what does reopening begin to look like? Well, we're going to be guided by some foundational principles. And one of them is that we're going to respect our governing authorities. Romans 13 makes that so clear. And we also are going to love one another as Christ has loved us, as John 13 makes clear. And a final or third biblical priority is to honor the most vulnerable among us. Romans 12 calls us to honor the weak and honor the vulnerable among us. We're going to try to abide by all three of those principles as we discuss reopening as a congregation. As a church, because of our online capabilities, we don't have to rush back in unwise or unsafe ways just to get back into the sanctuary. When the regulations begin to soften in the coming weeks, we're able to come back together. We're going to take our time and do it carefully and do it well. This is out of a desire to protect you, especially those of you who are more at risk than others. It's going to protect our neighbors as well, minimizing exposure on our campus. It's going to give us a chance to learn also as the region begins to reopen, maybe a little bit ahead of us. The small businesses opening sooner than we do. We'll be able to learn things. What we envision is more of a phased migration because being packed into the sanctuary would be difficult and challenging to maintain any semblance of safe social distancing. What we envision is smaller groups beginning to return to basic activities first. As stay-at-home orders and the limits on the number of people gathered together begin to be increased, we hope to see gatherings in smaller groups to worship together, maybe with other families in your neighborhood or other families in your flock, even though we're not able to be together in the sanctuary yet. Perhaps small groups could gather together on a Sunday morning and participate together in the live stream. C groups gather together, Sunday school classes or flocks, physically worshiping together alongside one another with the live stream from the church. And worship in the sanctuary, when it does start, will start small with social distancing. We're working on a system of rotation for some folks to be in the sanctuary while others participate via online. We're working also to minimize the spread of germs. There'll be extra cleaning. There'll be specific flow patterns for foot traffic around the building and other means of keeping us safe. And with any of you with special circumstances or underlying health conditions, feel free to stay online only, even longer. There's no pressure for you to return until you're comfortable. Those are just a few of our initial thoughts that we're just beginning to discuss as we plan together. The main thing that I want you to be aware of for now, though, is that we don't intend to rush back. You can relax, continue to worship with us online, and know that we're thinking through this very carefully along lines of seeking to be biblically faithful in our responsibility to love one another. Also, we're growing together as a loving church family, even when we're scattered, even as we are the diaspora, as it were, exiled. We're growing together as a church family. I know this is a difficult season for some of you. Your church family is here. If you need assistance, some of you need financial assistance or spiritual assistance, emotional assistance, please email us at care@centralpres.com or reach out to your shepherd. He would love to put you in contact with someone who can help you very practically. If you'd like to be prayed for, email us at prayer@centralpres.com. It is one of my highlights and privileges as a pastor of this church to be able to pray for you and pray alongside you. And also, if you are looking for ways to connect with other church members virtually, maybe in a Bible study on Zoom or community group, or join Sunday school classes that are meeting on Zoom, please reach out to Pastor Mike Farley or email communications@centralpres.com. This is no time to be alone, but instead it's the perfect time to reach out and seek to connect in a new way with your church family that loves you. Friends, let me close by saying this. If you find yourself overwhelmed or feeling alone, know that you are in the arms of the Lord who loves you to the end. And he will not give up on you. And he set you in a family, his body called the church, to serve as his hands and his feet in your life right now. I'm so grateful that each of you are here and part of the Central Church family. Thank you for listening, and the Lord bless you.